All right, this is the next episode of True Wrestling Fans Discussions, continuing our retro pay-per-view review series. Is going to be In Your House 1 from 1995. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank. Let's get into it. Finally, Vince decided to compete with WCW as far as doing more pay-per-views than just the original. It was the original four, and then it went to five with the King of the Ring. Now, starting in May '95, they would go monthly. These were only 2 hour events to start. I remember the pay-per-view pricing on this. I believe they had a $15 pay-per-view charge for the
Yeah,
first one.
it started at 14.99, and then
I
it went
know.
it went up at the end of the year. It was 19.99.
Are you sure? Because I think I mean, I didn't pay the cable bill back then, but I started getting them on the next one when Shawn Michaels got the title shot, and I believe it was 20. But again,
Yeah,
27 years ago, I could be wrong. But in any event, it was on May 14th,
and it was
1995. Oh, well, go ahead, man.
yeah, and it was only 2 hours. It was shorter. They were just basically the business was really down. Like house shows were down. Everything was
Everything
down
was
in
down. Yeah,
95. It was terrible. So they try to add this to try to generate some more revenue, and they figure, okay, we'll just charge half the price at first.
yeah.
And then we'll see what happens. So it was
I
just
mean, it wasn't bad. They had 10 matches, six which they televised. I'll get to the dark matches here in a little bit. I mean, the card wasn't bad, and I mean, the main event wasn't bad. Let's get into it. May 14th, 1995, on Mother's Day in Syracuse, New York. Roughly 7,000 people on hand. It was a small arena. I mean, obviously, you're not going to jam pack Madison Square Garden for a 2 hour event like this. It's just not going to happen. So they actually had a dark match before they opened the match, which was Jean Pierre Lafitte defeating Bob Holly.
it
Okay, you
is.
can leave that. You can leave that off of it. It's fine. The actual opening match to this, the inaugural In Your House match, was Bret the Hitman Hart versus Hakushi. Now, I can look at this match two ways. Number one, we've talked about it. They held Bret back in '95
Yeah, it was a
because
wasted
Diesel
year.
was the champion. Exactly, him and the Undertaker. Number two, this was an opportunity to see what Hakushi could do in the ring with a guy like Bret Hart, and it botched bad. It really did. Hakushi was way off on his moves in this. I'm sorry to say. I mean, I like the high flying that he did, but some of the moves, when especially when they were going into the ropes, it was like a minute off because either Hakushi missed the cue or whatever the case was. But Brett actually started looking like he was getting frustrated in the match a little bit because of what they were trying to do and what they executed. And then Vince on the announcing was Vince and Doc Hendricks doing it, trying to correct it and keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was a terrible match, but
It
Hakushi
wasn't.
hadn't been there very long, so you got to cut him a little bit of slack. He's
Yeah,
getting adjusted to that type of style.
and
He has
especially getting in the ring with a guy
yeah.
with a resume like Bret Hart.
It was funny
I
you
mean
mentioned
that's big.
you mentioned Doc Hendricks. I believe this is his pay-per-view debut. I think
hmm
pay-per-view.
Yeah, I believe so. He came in '95.
He came in shortly before this, and then which was a travesty that they didn't let him just be Michael Hayes.
Michael P.S.
Yeah,
Hayes,
that was Vince.
and they cut his
Vince.
hair.
Yeah, that was because of Vince. Vince told him to cut his hair. He's like, oh, he looks too southern. We got to cut his hair. And at first, they didn't tell him he was going to change his name, and then they started saying, oh, well, how about we just change your name? And they came up with Doc Hendricks from Jimi Hendrix because Michael Hayes likes rock and roll, so that they came up with
Yeah,
the name Doc Hendricks. They had him cut his hair, and I thought he was a garbage character. He was nothing like what he really was.
exactly. He's actually a better producer than he is a
Yeah,
commentator,
I don't know.
and he was a better wrestler than above all the others.
Yeah, so
Unfortunately, yeah, Vince has to put his moniker on somebody that's already known.
yeah,
That's why Sting had always said during the invasion, I didn't want to go there. I was afraid I was going to be re-gimmicked.
yeah.
He probably would have been. In any event, 14 minutes, 39 seconds. Bret Hart got the victory. He rolled up Hakushi. It was a nice little move. Of course, Shinja, the Hakushi's manager, was trying to get involved in this, but Bret Hart got the victory over him. And this would be just the first time we'd see him this night because he'd be back for another fight later on. What I also thought was cool was when he got out of the ring, he started doing like a little cave fob there with his knee
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make his next opponent Jerry Lawler think that he's got an injured
Hmm.
knee, and then Lawler would be pursuing the rest of the night with Jack Tunney. Thank God Tunney's almost gone to let him fight now.
Hmm.
What do we have? Another 2 months of Tunney before Gorilla took over, as
Yeah.
character running it.
On screen, yeah.
Tunney was a putz. Our next match was actually supposed to be a tag team match, but injury, storyline, whatever it was,
No, it was
turned it
legit.
in
1, 2, 3
on the
kid.
one,
Like
two, three kid there.
he broke his
His
neck.
neck. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It was supposed to be a tag match, bound up being a handicap match. It was Razor Ramon versus Double J Jeff Jarrett, your boy,
Broke
and
6,000 guitars.
never drew a
Never drew a
dime.
dime.
Well, he didn't draw a dime in this event, I'll tell you that much. And he had the roadie uh, teaming up with him. This was a decent match. You know, the one thing I liked about Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, whatever you want to call him, was when he delivered the punch to you. It felt so real, and to me, it gave such an impact. I liked how his style and how he did it.
I felt like The Rock stole his punch style. The Rock kind of took from
Yeah, you
Scott
notice
Hall.
it's a little similar.
Similar, yeah. I always liked his punches, though. I agree. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he definitely, and you know, especially how his opponent, once he does that spin around, how they'll do the fall.
Yeah.
And Jarrett was one that actually did that pretty good.
Yeah. Jarrett was okay at taking bumps. He wasn't bad at taking bumps.
Yeah, he just was, you know, never drew anything.
Yeah.
So the match wasn't bad. Razor Ramon got the victory. He finally gets to pin Jeff Jarrett. Unfortunately, he doesn't get the Intercontinental title back. And then, as he's being jumped by Rhodey and Jarrett, out comes the Portuguese Man of War. God help us. Or just
Aldo,
Incredible, whatever.
Aldo Montoya.
Or just Incredible, whatever you want
He
to
comes
call
in.
him.
He comes in. He gets his ass whipped.
Yeah,
and and I've said this story in the past about Aldo Montoya. Like, it was so stupid the way they made him the Portuguese Man of War. Like, his parents are from Portugal, and Vince McMahon finds out, like, wait a minute, this guy speaks Portuguese, and they named him Aldo Montoya after a soccer player. But then it's just Incredible doesn't play soccer, so then they kind of just went with the Portuguese Man of War as his tagline.
With a jock strap on his head.
With his jock strap on his head. So stupid. Just let him be himself.
Exactly.
So he gets his ass whipped, and then
we get somebody with how they described it was somebody coming out of the crowd.
Yeah.
Who actually knew what they were doing. And of course, Doc goes, "This guy looks familiar." Of course, it was once Quang. Yeah, exactly. It was Savio Vega. Yeah. And we find this out later when Razor's getting interviewed. How he said that, you know, he fought in Puerto Rico. I fought against this guy. I'm glad he's on my side. And I liked Savio Vega through 95. I did.
Savio was fine. Yeah, it was good.
But once they turned him bad, it's like everybody was like, we don't care.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There was nothing.
It was the Tonka syndrome.
Exactly, because once you did it, you killed him.
Yeah, I agree.
And especially when you thought they were going to push Savio, because especially when, you know, in the King of the Ring, his first
was going over
pay-per-view. Yeah.
But remember that year he was feuding with Austin, and he was
Caribbean strap match.
96. Yeah, you thought they were gonna, but wrong.
Nope, they were pushing the other guy, not him.
Yeah, so
he didn't get the memo. Our next match, kind of a squash match, but what do you expect? It was a King of the Ring qualifying match. It was Adam Bomb versus Mabel. Yeah, not anymore. Not once they turned him fan favorite. I'm sorry.
He didn't work as a fan favorite. This is Adam Bomb's last pay-per-view because he's out of here after this.
Yep. And he actually held his. I mean, this was literally a 2-minute match.
Quick, he held his own for
2 minutes.
All of 2 minutes.
That's more than most people could say against Mabel.
Yeah, the two big guys. Mabel had just turned heel shortly before this, I believe.
Yeah.
Men on a Mission and Oscar. They just got rid of Oscar. Like they beat up Oscar, right? They turned heel. They beat him up, and then that was it.
When Mo came back from the injury,
I think he was never,
they turned on him.
I think that was it. I don't think Oscar was ever seen again. I think, if I remember.
No, because I mean, he wouldn't have fit into this heel Men on a Mission. But in any event, Mabel wins the match. He qualifies for the King of the Ring for the following month, and everybody knows he eventually wins it. And I guess Vince looked at that and said, after this, he goes, "That's it. No more title shots for these guys," which I think was a shame because I thought that was a cool thing to do. But right after this was where they did a backstage segment where Jerry Lawler was talking to Jack Tunney, saying that how he wanted the match now.
No.
Brett's injured. Tunney's telling him, "No, get the hell out of here. Your match is later on. You know, we're not doing this now and whatnot."
Jerry Lawler.
The following match after that was another short one. For the WWE Tag Team Championships, it was Yokozuna and Owen Hart defending the titles against the Smoking Guns. Another short match was just under 6 minutes.
Because Yoko was out of shape. This was like the slow decline. This is where you start to see the signs of like he's deteriorating. He gets tired really quickly. He's getting bigger and bigger.
This is where they
Sad.
first say that he's now over 600.
Yeah, it's sad because you could see how, man, just a year prior, how much better he looked, and a year before that, when he first came in, how
Well,
much better
see,
he looked.
the problem with him was he, and he said this in an interview that they did an article a couple of years after he left, that he wanted to go down in the record books as the largest wrestler ever.
I don't believe that. He
I
just said, he
mean,
probably just said, I don't believe that. It makes no
he,
sense. Health
well,
wise and then work wise, it makes no sense.
I mean, when he left, well,
Couldn't move.
he was in the 700s.
He couldn't even, yeah. So
I don't understand
it's the
if it's
same.
true.
Sad,
I don't
very
understand
sad.
why he would do it.
I think he's lying. I think that he's making an excuse for the fact that he had a problem and he couldn't stop eating and lose the weight, and so he says, "Oh well, I want to be the biggest wrestler." I think that was just an excuse. It's just, I mean, I don't know, but that's what I think.
Oh yeah, and the time that he was off TV, all the weight that he lost, he gained it back in no time.
Right back, yeah.
So this is why they had to put him in a tag team, kind of like with Andre when he was deteriorating. You can't go a one-on-one match, so they have to put him in a tag team where he's in there part of the time.
Yeah.
So I mean, and Owen Hart and Yoko get the victory in this one over the Smoking Guns. So I mean, yeah, this was the start of Yokozuna, definitely. Our next match after that, we finally get it, is Bret the Hitman Hart versus Jerry the King Lawler. This is once again starting up a pointless feud from 2 years ago.
It's never ending.
Just to keep Bret out of the spotlight.
Busy. Bret Hart comes out pretending to be limping or whatever, but he already showed in the back that he was fine.
I love the sarcastic look on his face, like
dude, off topic. What about Top Pettingill on that mullet, man? Jesus, did not age well, man.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Even when they brought him back, when NXT introduced In Your House, when they brought that back and they had him come out for it, 20-something years later, he still didn't look, no.
No, I didn't mind Todd. I'm just saying that mullet that he had.
I as far as from what I can remember 27 years ago, that wasn't in the in style, so I don't know what he's doing. But in any event, even before this, Lawler brings out his so-called mother.
Yeah, it was weird. That was just weird.
Yeah, it was. And he's like, look around here, see if Bret Hart's mom is here.
She challenges Martha if Jerry Lawler wins, she wants to fight Martha Hart.
Sometimes I think they went overboard on this.
Yeah,
Lawler did. I really
silly.
Did.
It was just silly. I just didn't.
I didn't like Lawler back when he was doing all this, but when he went to when he was commentating during the Attitude Era,
no, he was good.
I loved him.
Good. Well, he starts doing Monday Night Raw around this time because he gets shifted over because Doc Hendricks goes to Superstars of Wrestling and then Lawler goes to Raw full time, I believe. I think.
Yeah, and with Vince and I think JR was going back and forth too with it.
Yeah.
So this would have been a good match had it been one-on-one, no interference. However, Shinja, if I got that right, and Hakushi interfered in this match. Earl, and this was like ridiculous because Earl Hebner
he doesn't see any of this.
The rope.
And he doesn't.
Yeah,
he's like flipping around. He's flipping around and everything. He doesn't see what's going on. He didn't see Hakushi jumping off the top rope.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's sitting there, and I know you can see him.
Right. It's just terrible.
And Lawler rolls Bret up for the 1-2-3. Lawler gets the victory against Bret. So obviously, this feud's going to continue. Why? I have no idea.
Yeah. And then Bret beats the manager up, and just that's pretty much it. So.
Yeah, and so
Bret
goes 1-1 on this night.
It only gets better because then he starts feuding with was after this.
Isaac Yankem, Jean-Pierre Lafitte.
I was going to Lafitte. Maybe Hakushi should have stole his jacket, and the feud would have been better. But anyway, moving on.
Seriously. Now we're on to the main event.
Oh, before that, they give the house away. Right before this, they give the house away. They do the drawing. They call up the guy. Lucky he was home. Like if you believe they actually did that lie, like they hadn't told him prior to that. I would imagine they told him prior to that.
They had.
Okay, we're gonna call you because then it's a botch on air. But so just a real quick story about this. They really did give away that house.
Mm-hmm.
Like Vince told Jerry Briscoe, listen, I want to give away a house at this pay-per-view. Go find a house in Florida or Orlando that's like a nice house. And he found the house. They legitimately gave away.
Go find a house.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a true story. They bought the house, and then what ends up happening, because I read the article about this. What ended up happening was that that kid's family, obviously he was only like 11 years old. So the father was the one that had to control everything, obviously,
Yeah.
So they had just moved from New York to, I believe, Las Vegas. I think at the time they had just moved from New York to Las Vegas. So they didn't want to move again to Florida. And I guess they had to pay the taxes on the house. They ended up selling the house like 6 months later. They sold, but good for them. They apparently they sold it for like 175,000.
It's a profit in your
Yeah,
pocket.
and think about back then. That's 20 something years ago.
Yeah.
175K is not bad.
And
It
in
helped.
Florida, that's equivalent to maybe about 450 now.
It helped and it helped pay for his college. So good for him.
Hats off to
Good for
him.
him. Yeah.
But yeah, that whole house thing, Pettengill, and it was just like, oh my god, and you could, the crowd obviously isn't in it, but I mean, it was a good thing, Vince, that he did.
And that's pretty cool though, man. Not for nothing. Like
It was.
imagine being a wrestling fan and you won a house just because you watch wrestling and your name was entered in.
They did one again, not too far in the future with the key thing. It was a couple of years later.
Sounds
Where
familiar. I don't remember, but that sounds familiar. Yeah.
yeah, well, once we get into the later
Mhm.
well, those pay-per-views, it'll be
Yeah.
on there. So our next match is the main event. On paper is good, not
Yeah.
executed very
Well, I
well,
mean, the
unfortunately.
build up was really good though because
Yes, that was.
and I also like they don't even do this anymore. But I remember back in the day they used to give like a music video of the wrestler to like put the wrestler over. So they had the Psycho Sid music video where he's just destroying everybody and power
Don't
bombing
call me
everything
psycho.
with the music. Yeah, don't call me Psycho. I used to love when I used to say it all the time. Don't call me Psycho. Well, I love Sid, man. I'm a Sid Mark. So he had betrayed Shawn Michaels because Shawn tried to give him the night off and nobody gives Sid the night off. So
The night after WrestleMania.
he ended up whipping his ass. I believe the true story was Shawn just wanted some time off to rest
Yeah.
some injuries and stuff. So Sid betrayed him. And I think later on it's revealed that the $1 Million Man was behind that, orchestrated that whole thing. Like he had secretly been working for the $1 Million Man, and $1 Million Man had told him to be Shawn Michaels' bodyguard or something. Because leading into this, he joins the corporation.
Yeah.
He joins the $1 Million Corporation. They betray Bam Bam Bigelow because I think Bam Bam gets the title shot against Diesel, right?
Yeah.
He gets the title shot against Diesel. I think Tatanka trips him or something. That's just so many years ago. I don't really remember.
They turned on him because of the loss to Lawrence Taylor.
Right. So then he ends up Bam Bam turns babyface and becomes Diesel's best friend, which was always felt forced and like out of nowhere.
Yeah, it didn't seem right.
And then all of a sudden because Sid beat up Shawn, now Diesel's gonna avenge him. Meanwhile, I was like, he's been feuding with Shawn for how long? He hated the guy.
Yeah, this was ongoing.
Remember how we said in another
4 or 5 months.
We said in another show, like back in the days, like once you turn babyface, like whatever beef you have with somebody is like
It's
gone.
over.
You're best friends now because baby faces are always friends with baby faces. That's it. So whatever issues you had, and the same thing as being a heel, now you're friends.
Well, except in 1997, everybody beat the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, well, they started going their own way.
Yeah.
But the buildup was great. The problem is you have two big guys with a similar style. So especially with a guy like Sid, you have to have a smaller guy to take all those crazy bumps and stuff, and then make Sid look like $1 million. When you have two guys with a very similar stature and style, it just doesn't work.
Nah, unfortunately. I mean, the crowd was into it, obviously, because of
Diesel.
I
mean, it on paper it sounds cool, like, oh my god, these awesome. Two monsters, and like Sid was selling for Diesel too, though. We gotta give Sid a little credit. He was selling for Diesel, and Diesel came out like a house of fire.
Oh yeah, I love when Sid came out and he's staring down Vince, and Doc's like, "Don't." He called you psycho, and he's looking at it. He goes,
"No,
say it,
great.
Vince. Say it, Vince." Yeah. And Vince is like, "No, I'm not looking at him."
Yeah,
that was cool.
Sid was great. So I like Sid a lot.
I always did. I liked him when he was in his first run of Sid Justice.
Yeah,
he was crazy. He was maniacal. I love the barbershop thing that he did with Beefcake.
Great.
The build up to Hogan, and
he was over. The crowd liked him,
and he still came back a little smaller, obviously, but still with the intensity that he had 3 years prior. Yeah. So unfortunately, this wasn't clean. This was Diesel winning by disqualification.
I hate these endings, man.
I know. Tatanka came in, and then Bam Bam Bigelow comes in, and all of a sudden Bam Bam's raising Diesel's hand and whatnot. Whatever. This would actually lead to the following month, which I didn't understand the tag team match. I really did not. I honestly thought that Tatanka was going to get the title shot against Diesel, considering he did the run-in. And I thought they were going to build that up. But then the tag team match, I was like, oh, no, they're really holding this guy back.
How about they continue? The match didn't work, and they keep with this feud with the Lumberjacks and everything. Like,
yeah,
we'll get
it going.
We'll eventually review that.
Back.
just kept
on that
on
one.
with
Sean was back for that one.
and I feel like they fought another time on Raw. I mean, I could be wrong. I kind of feel like they fought again on Raw or
Yeah,
something.
it was a few times.
They kept on. It's
And
like it's not working. Just go.
because
Just pivot.
yeah, once they ended this feud in July, then Diesel's got the next massive guy with Mabel, and then Bulldog turned on him. He
Which
thought,
was even worse. Yeah. So
it was totally chaotic.
Yeah. 95 was not a good year for
You
the business
cannot
or for
blame
Diesel.
Yeah, you can't blame him. He
Well,
did the best he could with what he had.
Well, we spoke
But
about this too, though. The babyface thing was a mistake.
yeah,
It
for
didn't
him,
work.
definitely.
It felt very forced. It didn't feel natural.
If he was the Diesel of old as the champion,
Yeah.
it might have been better. But again, holding Brett and Undertaker back that year just didn't seem right. So Diesel really did. By the time he faced Brett again, title reign's over.
And they
So-
also they eventually figured out we have to turn this guy heel again because that's what's
Yeah,
gonna work.
and you could see it happening before that match at Survivor
Yeah.
Series because, like I said, we did it on the review.
Mhm.
Diesel was going to a losing streak going into that match. So, and then of course the three dark matches that were at the end of this that were not aired was the Undertaker beating Kama, Bam Bam Bigelow defeating Tatanka, and the King of the Ring qualifying match that actually eliminated both of these guys was Owen Hart fought Bulldog to a draw. So, and they weren't doing that Mr. Perfect Gold doink thing where, okay, third time, here you go, fight, and one of you is in.
I remember that. Yeah.
This time it was like, oh, you didn't
All
qualify?
right.
Goodbye.
See ya.
Owen, you're out. Bulldog,
Yeah.
you're out. And that's it.
Yeah. That's it.
That match I actually would have liked to see on
Yeah.
the pay-per-view.
Yeah, definitely should have.
Any Owen Hart match.
I don't know.
I was an Owen. I've said it. I'm an Owen
Oh.
fan. He's an uncrowned champion. The man deserved it. Didn't get it. Unfortunately, so.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that's our in your house. Get ready for some.
It was
more.
the inaugural one. We still
Yeah.
hey, there's 26 more to go because they stopped the in your house moniker in February of '98.
Yeah, took a few years.
99. My bad. 99.
Yeah, it took a
St.
few
Valentine's
years.
Day Massacre. Yeah,
So
definitely a few years.
yeah. So you guys make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys soon.
Take care.